Can I wear my bathing suit? It's very European.
According to our new dress code, you can wear whatever you want.
like the Borat.
Oh my goodness. That's pretty Espookies. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Espookys Talk. That's right, guys. The podcast that just explores everything super Espookies. Hey, I'm Arturo, and I'm here once again with the brujaha of all brujahas, Eva.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Today also joining us is the wonderful and great Jackie.
Jackie!
Hey.
Oh man, we're back again, and we're ready to dive into it. What are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about possessions and exorcisms.
Get out.
No.
Get out.
So personally, this really creeps me out.
You know, me too.
Yeah.
Like, it took me a really long time to be able to watch, like, The Exorcist. Like, the movie. I'm not kidding. Like, because it just would freak me out. I'd be sleepless for, like, 2 days.
Yeah, no, I've never even watched it.
Then I had to sleep with, like, lights
You've never
on.
seen The Exorcist?
No, I'm not gonna, no.
Get out.
I have a huge, huge fear of that whole possession thing. It started when I was, like, in grad school.
Interesting.
Yeah, like, it scares me too much.
You know what's super crazy is my brother. My brother is a pastor, and he used to tell me that he was involved in exercising, whatever.
Exercising? Like
yeah.
going to the gym?
Yeah, going to the
Yeah,
gym.
I do that.
Helping people out, who are possessed, who are taken over by demons. It trips me out. And I had a conversation with him, and I recorded a little bit. I'll share it in a minute. But some of his stories, it's hard to believe, but they're believable. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I think everybody has their truth to speak. And of course, like, unless you were there, it is hard to believe it.
Man.
I mean, there's that saying, right? I gotta see it to believe it.
One of the things that I remember is when you were talking about in one of our previous episodes, when we were talking about someone with a jealousy demon, and
Yeah.
you were saying they looked possessed,
Yeah, they got crazy eyes.
Yes, and I can relate to that because I kind of experienced it a little bit myself, but whenever we talked about making this particular episode, that's exactly what I thought about.
And I told you that the eyes are windows to the soul.
Oh, man.
You can tell how a person is just by glancing at them through their eyes.
I don't think I have that gift.
I kind of do.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, like, I can get, like, a sense of somebody by looking at their eyes. And
So now I want to know.
what do you mean?
Oh, no. You've seen my eyes.
Like,
I mean, like, you have kind eyes.
Oh.
yes. You have,
Thanks,
you
guys.
do.
I was just gonna say that. Kind
I've
eyes.
got a
easy.
face for radio, but kind eyes.
Kind eyes.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what lured your wife in.
That must have been it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can tell somebody who's got, like, it's just, so somebody who's, like, got evil inside of them, like, they just have this, their eyes seem kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but like watery and, like, just dark.
It's almost as if you were staring into a portrait of someone. There's like nothing there. There's an emptiness. It's like, first of all, I really hope no one ever does, but if you ever dream of the abyss, that's what it looks like when you're looking at someone who is just truly evil. There's nothing there. They feel nothing. Because the most human thing to have are emotions.
Yeah.
And reactions.
I honestly don't think I've ever seen anybody who I felt was purely evil, but I've seen people have like looks come over them that it wasn't them anymore. And that was the most purest look of evil that I think I've ever seen is in a couple of those people.
Well, that's when, like, you've got sociopaths and psychopaths that, like, unmask.
Yeah.
And it's like the mask fades for, like, a split second and you see, like, the true nature of the person. And it's actually terrifying.
I don't know, guys. I myself, like I say, I've only seen it a couple of times. And thank goodness. Thank goodness for that. But my brother Tony has definitely experienced a few things, and he wanted to share a few. So here he is, guys. Here's my brother Tony.
So, okay, my name is Tony, the brother of the illustrious Arturo Noriega, the founder of Espookys.
Espookys.
But my first experience was when I was a teenager. I've been in church most of my life, and I was actually called into the ministry at the age of 16. And we were at a church camp just above Frazier Park, which is on the Grapevine in California, for those of you who are familiar. And we were at the conclusion of a service, and there were a lot of kids who were praying for one another. And I was praying for a group of young people, and God was doing some amazing things. And I get this tap on my shoulder, and they're saying, Tony, we need you to come over here. So as I walked over, there was a teenage young lady sitting on the floor, and there were other teenagers that were holding her arms against the pew as she leaned back against it, because she was becoming violent as she was beginning to manifest these demonic presences. And as I came over and as I sat down, or I didn't sit down, I knelt down right in front of her. I looked at her, and before I could even begin to speak, she snapped her head, looked me dead in my eyes, and then rolled her eyes completely back into her head.
No way.
So again, I couldn't see any of the color in her eyes. They rolled it completely back, and all I saw was the red and white of the back of her eyes. And then she proceeded to laugh at me with a laugh that was 3 or 4 octaves lower than what a young lady should be laughing. It's just and everybody that was at that point holding her arms down freaked out and took off and left me there to pray with this young lady. And I began to pray, and we began to cast the demonic spirits out of her. But that was my very first experience with it at the age of 16.
Wait a second. So with no experience whatsoever, these guys just came to grab you?
Yes, well, because they knew I was a minister. I had been called into the ministry.
At 16?
I had received my call into the ministry at 16. I didn't actually start as a minister at a church until a few years later, but I received my calling, if you want to call it that, from the Lord.
No, I get it. But they knew something was up with this girl, and they grabbed a 16-year-old instead of maybe, I don't know, perhaps someone able to vote.
Well, again, yeah, good point. No, you had to be there. During this church camp, the Lord really began to manifest through me, and I began to pray for people, and miracles began to happen as I was praying for other people.
All right.
Again, for everybody who's listening and who may not have a complete understanding, there's nothing special about me. There's nothing that I was doing. It was the Lord working through me. And so because they saw these other miracles that were happening and whatnot, they said, okay, well, I'm going to come and grab this guy because clearly God listens to him, and we want to make sure that this gets taken care of as soon as possible.
Clearly better him than me.
Yeah, exactly.
So what happened?
Well, after 25 minutes of prayer, she finally got rid of all the demonic spirits that were in her, and she was completely back to normal by the time we got done praying for her.
That's crazy. So I use the word crazy a lot.
I understand. That's not a problem.
But that's crazy.
It is crazy.
No.
And you know what's crazy, that every time that these demonic spirits begin to manifest themselves, every experience is different. When I was in Bible college at Joplin, Missouri, they had me come and speak at a church in Webb City. Webb City, for those of you who've never been there and don't know about it, it's like a scene from the movie Deliverance. It is just one of the most backward places that you'd ever want to be. But
ding 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 ding.
But I spoke I preached my sermon, and we began to pray for people afterwards. And there was a young man there, probably about, again, 16, maybe 17 years old. And when they brought him to me, this sounds like an exaggeration, but please understand, I've seen a lot of things, and this is not an exaggeration. It's the absolute truth. When he looked at me, I could see zero color in his eyes. Everything that was supposed to be white was blood red. And all I could see was the blood red and the black pupil. I couldn't see any of the color in his eyes, nothing. Mm-mm. And he was slobbering and just, it was the whole thing that they like to depict on TV.
Absolutely not. I've been gone.
Yeah. And so when I began to pray for him, I couldn't pray for him at that moment. I turned away and I just said, God, I need you to help me on this one. And so I think there were 4 of us down there when we were praying with them. And I looked at everybody and I said, now listen, and again, this is instructions from God. This is nothing special about me. I said, listen, nobody touch him right now. But what I'm going to do is when I'm going to count to 3, and when I count to 3, we're all going to lay hands on him at the same time. And I want you to begin to pray with all faith that God is going to do something. And so when I did that, I counted down 1, 2, 3. We all laid hands on him. And not only did he fall out in the spirit, which is basically, for those of you who aren't in church, it's kind of like a fainting thing where like you just lay on the floor and you're under the power of God. But the other 3 people that were with me praying, they all fell out in the spirit too. And so when everybody came to, I lifted this young man up by his hand back to a standing position, and his eyes were white as snow again. You could see the colors in his eyes. And when I tell you, his smile lit up the room, it's like a weight of 1,000 pounds had been lifted off this young man. And then I've seen the other extreme too. I've seen people become violent through their demonic experiences and try to attack people. I've had demons speak to me through the person that they were inhabiting at that time and try to intimidate me to not pray for them. I've seen people literally, not figuratively, literally like a snake on their belly move in between chairs on the floor in a way that they should have never been able to do. I've seen people fall backwards with their arms folded in front of them like a board, no bend in their knees, no bend in their back, hit the floor and pop back up without any assistance in the same manner that they went back. I mean, when I tell you that these demonic spirits have not only power over the individual spirit and mind, but they also have power over their bodies. My mother, who grew up in Mexico, tells a story of when she was a little girl. They brought a demon-possessed young lady, probably about 10 years old, who was demon-possessed. They tied her up with ropes to a chair. And because of the strength of these demonic spirits that were inside of her, she took 2 full-grown deacons, one in each arm, and threw them off of her. I mean, I've seen so many different things. And the stories that I could tell you from other ministers that I know are even more outlandish than what I've seen in person. But I've seen
Tell me one.
I've talked to a gentleman. They were actually in Africa. They were doing a missions trip to Africa. And a woman began to levitate. No, I'm serious. Began to levitate and actually float towards them in a manner where she was going to attack them. It's kind of like, out of a Hollywood movie. And he just looked and he just pointed right in her face and said, "In the name of Jesus," and she fell to the ground. And then they were able to start praying for her. Again, I've seen all sorts of things, and it's just amazing.
I remember one story that you were telling me about walking into a room and just like poltergeist, seeing toys floating around. Tell me that.
This happened in a city right next to Visalia. I believe it was in Sanger. And a pastor, friend of mine, he's actually a mentor pastor of mine, had been called out to this apartment by this young lady's family because the mother was heavily involved in witchcraft, and they were seeing all sorts of manifestations in this apartment. So when my pastor got to the apartment, he came in, was greeted at the front door, and they said, "Okay, well, we're going to show you kind of where everything is happening." They took him down the hallway into the little girl's room, and it was literally just like the movie Poltergeist from what he was telling me, that they opened the door and the room, there were toys levitating and floating in a circle in the middle of the room. And this little girl was in the middle of the floor, I don't know, not necessarily controlling all of it, but under the influence of the spirits, was in the midst of all of that.
That's
it's crazy.
I've heard some things. We've talked to some people. I don't know what I would do if I experienced something like that, man.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm filled with the Spirit, and I have no fear of the demonic. But every single time it happens, it makes the hair on my arm stand up. I feel that creeping in the back of my neck, because these things are not supposed to happen. They're not supposed to be possible.
Man, oh man, I can't even fathom trying to help someone who's completely lost. Like they're no longer there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. But do you see what I mean? Like, look at how the window to the soul, your eyes, are the ones that are showing all the symptoms.
I'm telling you.
It's what gives it away of what's going on.
That's crazy.
Absolutely not.
Hey, you and me both.
I would be out.
Hey, a couple of people come up to me and say, "Yo, I need a little help because this guy is tripping out and he's possessed." And
his eyes are
all of a sudden, and you walk up and it's, well, the first part when he walks up and he sees some chick and she's like, no, I'm gone.
Nope.
I'm gone. If you sound like Jabba the Hutt, man, I am out.
See, I wouldn't be out.
Of course you wouldn't.
I would talk and get to the bottom of this. What's going on?
Nope.
You're a better person than I am.
And
but
me.
I wouldn't say I'm a better person.
I
I'm
would.
just very intrigued. But then my mom always told me curiosity killed the cat.
Wow. Meow. I'm gone.
Wow. Okay.
Jackie, I'm telling you, I think I know that you have a unique gift, I've talked to you enough.
Yeah.
And have you ever experienced anybody did you just look at and be like, wow, dude, you're gone. It's not them anymore.
I wouldn't say that so much. It's just kind of like, yeah, I've never had anybody like be gone like that, right? But I've known people where you can tell just by like looking at them that they're not a good person and that there's something like more in there that's like influencing who they are.
Oh, okay. Like, that there's an entity within them?
Something. I mean, people who've gone through like massive personality changes, like that you never really expected for them to go through, and then they do something like awful.
Because most of the time, everyone always blames the poor demons out there in the world. I feel bad for them. Poor demons.
Oh, okay.
Where there's good, there needs to be evil. But that's just me and my perspective. I look at life a little different. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that there's other things. There's like jinns, and then there is all these other things that will possess you. It doesn't necessarily, it could be just a spirit who is so frustrated with the outcome of their life and how it ended, and they're so angry and enraged that becomes energy, because energy is infinite.
Energy is infinite. Say that all the time.
And, they're able to manipulate items and then eventually people.
Mm-hmm. When I was in grad school, like I've said this before, like I had this really bad fear of possession. I don't know where it came from, but in my apartment that I lived in, I never felt comfortable in there. Never felt comfortable sleeping in that place. And I remember talking to my boyfriend at the time and telling him like, there's something here, and like I feel like it's gonna possess me.
Like you could just feel the energy?
I could just feel the energy, and it was just like this random college apartment, and there I was like sleeping with a Bible under my pillow every night, even though I'm not like necessarily into religion a whole bunch. But yeah, it was wild. And like I've had other experiences where I'm like, I feel like there's something trying to get in.
That's super interesting.
Hasn't happened in a while, but like you guys had an episode about sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Sleep paralysis.
Yeah. I've had that like way too many times in my life, and there was one time in particular where I remember going through the episode and I knew that there was like something trying to possess me, and it had been happening pretty regularly for like a week or so before this. And finally, I just remember in my mind thinking like, just do it then. Just possess me. Just because I'm tired.
Mm-mm.
Right, of trying to battle it out.
I'm tired. Like, I can't sleep. So just possess me. Let's be done with it.
Nope.
And nothing happened.
Good.
Like,
That's good.
And I ended up waking up, and then I didn't have another episode for a while after that. And
I think the invitation of inviting something, I don't know. I myself don't feel that I'm strong enough to battle it if I let it in, so I almost have to keep fighting. It's kind of a weird...
I think you get to a point where you're just like exhausted because it wears you down.
Yes.
It wears you down.
And I was going to say that, but now that you've clarified, you started at the beginning of the statement, right? Mm-hmm. You were afraid of being possessed. Mm-hmm. So it held that to you. Mm-hmm. It kept trying to like fight you with that because it was your greatest fear, therefore lowering your vibration, because fear is the lowest vibration you can be in.
There's that vibration thing again.
And there it is.
There it is.
Lowest frequency. So at that point, it's now living its best life, whatever it was, right? And it is gaining energy from you to itself. You're feeding it because of your fear. And then it will manifest to more. But you said, no. You know what? Fine, do it. I give up.
I dare you.
Yeah,
And then
I
looked
dare
inside
you.
and was like, nah, she crazy.
No, I'm sure it was like, oh, she's no longer feeding my fear that I need to survive, right? Whatever this entity
changed
is.
the frequency.
Change the frequency, and now it's like, no, never mind. On to the next victim.
Let's go find somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
The most recent thing that happened to me that could even remotely be something like possession is when we did the spirit board.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know if all you guys know, but we actually went ahead and I came across a spirit board from the Ukraine and actually had it sent over, and we had a spirit board session. And when I was putting my hands to the board, and you guys, it's on film.
Yep.
So you were all witnesses. My fingers were like twitching. It wasn't like the movies. It wasn't like where the little planchette just starts moving by itself.
No.
It wasn't like that. My hands started to twitch, and then my right arm, like my right bicep, twitched, and it actually moved the planchette, and it freaked me out. That tingling in my mind felt like something was taking over my arm, and I freaked out, guys. I ain't gonna lie. And I pulled my hands off the board.
That's kind of like what happens.
Yeah, that's
As
what.
the spirit kind of like takes your.
But it was the first time I experienced it that way.
But of course. I mean, you've never done it before,
No,
right?
it tripped me out.
So, essentially, when you're using the spirit board, you are allowing spirits to use your body to communicate with you. Like, so essentially, they're holding onto your hands and moving them for you. And so you have to let go. And of course, you're going to feel energy.
I couldn't let go. I think that's what it was. I couldn't release that. I couldn't give myself up like that. I just couldn't.
I don't blame you.
Well, it's a scary thing because you don't ultimately know what's coming in. You don't ultimately know what you're giving your energy to because you could think it's like friendly and then it's like, haha.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
There's a lot of trickster things out there.
I mean,
Yeah.
So please, people out there listening, okay, I used all the protection and all the things that I know to keep us all safe when we use the spirit board. I highly advise that you don't do it because if you don't take those things, there's a lot of tricksters that will possess you and be part of your life, and they're really hard to get rid of. Okay, you got to go see a curandero or a curandera, and you got to do all these things. So please don't mess with things you don't know about. Please.
What about like items that are retaining energy and are possessed? I think of that because I have an uncle, right, who his wife purchased like a doll or something, right?
Okay.
And that particular doll was sitting in the corner, and she claims, now I don't know, that doll like turned its head.
nope. Mm-mm.
Oh, I believe it.
That's that's when you.
So she said that
Fireplace.
she said that she was walking through, and this doll was in a room, and during that night there was something that happened in the town. I don't remember exactly the whole story, but when she walked by, she paused because something caught her attention, and the doll turned its head.
See that dog fireplace.
You know what's funny? Big Ben mentioned that about putting something in the fireplace, and he was afraid.
Homie the cop.
Yeah, but he was afraid that if you burned it, that the spirit that was inside would be released through the smoke or ash or whatever, and could potentially, attach itself to something else.
On that note, yeah, no, absolutely. You definitely want to keep the doll just isolated, preferably in glass that has been blessed, so that it stays there, remains there. It's very important people don't look dolls straight in the eye that are possessed, or just items. Like if it has eyes, window to the soul. Like you're just inviting it in if you stare into it.
Yeah.
But on that note, I want to share that back in 1997.
Oh, not that long ago.
1997, okay? My mom had bought me 4 porcelain dolls, but they were from Goodwill because we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And one of them was my absolute favorite. Took this doll everywhere, okay? Porcelain dolls are very fragile. And like nothing ever happened to her. It was very gentle. And then one night I go to sleep and I wake up and my doll's left eye is scratched straight across. And I remember telling my mom, no, this doll can't be here anymore. Like, it's not my doll anymore.
Oh.
Like, it wasn't my doll anymore. And so my mom believed me, and she removed it into the garage to go return. You know, she's like, okay, my daughter doesn't want it. Maybe someone else does, right?
I'm so afraid of what's coming next.
Oh, it's back in
I
the
already
house,
have
like,
chills. I know.
2 hours later.
Go ahead.
Sure.
I'm ready.
100%. As soon as my mom left, walked to the garage, came back, the doll was back.
No.
Yeah, exact same spot. Bet.
No.
Yes.
This time 2 scratches.
After that, like, it just, I knew it wasn't my doll. Like, that doll was possessed for sure.
That's crazy.
What happened to the doll? Eventually.
Oh, my mom returned it back to the Goodwill.
And then
Dang.
it
So
never
someone else
never
had
came
to.
back?
Never came back.
So someone else has to deal with that.
Well, yeah. So with but like items that are possessed, once there's an exchange, like person to person, then we're good.
Great.
So that one man that receives things Goodwill, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Great.
brother.
Great.
Sorry if you're out there. You know, I've had an opportunity to talk to a lot of people about things, and when we talk about possessions, I know that when I think of possessions, I think of human possession.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that items can just retain energy from some previous owners or whatever,
Energy is infinite.
infinite, right? And then how it's released and thing. I watch a lot of documentaries, and I'm not the little shows of like, hey, I caught this on camera, but like, you know, of people's real experiences. And I feel like I've talked to a few people who I think they're legit, like they're very organic, their story that, hey, this item was in my home and these things are happening. And it's like their truth, you know?
You know what I just realized and thought about? That we just talked about that doll. I wouldn't be surprised if Sabrina shows up.
Her name was Sabrina.
Her name was Sabrina. I just thought about that
If that
because
thing pops up in your house, I'm never going to
because lately when I've been speaking things into the universe, it's been happening. So can you imagine this doll finds me? Oh my goodness. I would first crack up, but then I would bless her and put her in a box. I guess it's just part of my life now.
I don't know, guys.
Eva would be the only one who would do that out of this group.
Have you guys ever like spoken to someone who they themselves claim that they've been possessed?
No.
No, but I'd love to.
Hey, you heard it, guys. If you guys are out there and you feel that you yourself have experienced something that, whether you can explain it or not, if you feel like something has taken over, if you feel that something has, you know, just, I don't know, the energy has entered your system, you need to let us know. And you can always, they do. You can email Eva
Yeah,
That's true.
at espookystalk@gmail.com.
I will respond. I promise.
I honestly think I've met one person, his name was Jason, and Jason claims that he was possessed at one point. And
Whoa.
he was small, and he says he doesn't remember a lot of it, but his dad, and I only met his dad once, and unfortunately his dad has passed. But
Oh, may he rest in peace.
yeah, his dad had told me that it was violent, that he was cursing, that his voice was changed, his son wasn't there, and it was crazy, and all of these different things, and that he had to seek out help, and that his son was cured by someone who performed an exorcism.
I believe that.
I believe it too. You know, Jason's kind of an
Like-
okay guy.
Like, religions are a higher power. It makes sense. You do ask for help and they'll help you.
I feel,
It's true.
I believe you. I believe you. And I feel that I myself have, like, when you mentioned before the jealousy demon, you know what I mean? And things like that. And I was talking about, I feel like I myself have experienced like insane rage, you know, that
Yeah.
came out of nowhere. And was that a partial possession? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. You don't know what occurred. It wasn't like something that was happened to me. No one like did anything to me, you know? So what possessed me to act that way?
Yeah, you just lose control. You
So, but something
you are
took
not
over that.
You. Yeah.
It was weird.
And,
I don't know.
And okay, it's not the same. Disclaimer here, right? Like, it's not the same as when you're so angry and that kind of rage. It's it's like you can't even recall what happened because you are no longer you. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
But yeah, jealousy is ugly, and it's just no thank you. Just no thank you.
Okay.
Well, guys, guess what? It's getting to that time. And even though I feel like there's more to cover, I think we're going to have to postpone that to another time. So.
It's over already?
Yeah. Can you believe it?
Oh my God, that was so fast.
So tell you what, everyone out there, make sure you go ahead and hit the like and subscribe type buttons and send Eva an email.
Or comments. I like comments on Spotify. Or Apple Music.
Smash those like and subscribe buttons.
Okay, I take it back. It's not Apple Music. It's like the podcast version of it.
Yeah, Apple Podcast.
That one.
Yeah, with the purple.
Yeah, and our email again, everyone out there, is spookystalk@gmail.com. So make sure you guys send us an email. We will get back to you. But for all of you guys, as you're laying your head down on your pillow tonight, make sure to look under your bed.
Lock your closet and mirrors.
It's a spooky time.
Bye.